All right, that should have us going live soon here.
Okay.
I hope. Yep, there we go. There's a little lag between this system and then the actual YouTube live. So, but I just looked, and we are live on YouTube.
Great.
Excellent. And then we're not, our official begin time is at 6 o'clock.
Perfect.
Is that someone's chime there?
That was mine. That's why I'm turning everything off.
Smart.
I think that's why I had you muted in the beginning, Andrew. I thought that was a good solution. Turns out it wasn't.
See, I thought I was all muted and I was. My microphone was off. But can you hear me now okay? Just to
Yep.
check. Okay.
We got you.
I'll remute.
All right, we'll get going in about a minute. All right, should we get going? All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us to an information session on the Bloomington Online School for Middle School. We're going to be providing some information about our program, introducing at least by name, some of the teachers, in person, one of the teachers, and then fielding your questions through the chat feature on YouTube Live. So as we're going, feel free to enter in questions. Know that if it is a question that pertains to the topic that we're talking about right at that time, we might pause and answer it in that moment. Otherwise, we'll continue at the end to take more questions and make sure we go back and catch any questions that we might have missed.
So welcome. We are glad to have you here tonight and really looking forward to giving you an overview of Bloomington Online School Middle School. You can see our agenda tonight. We'll do some introductions, go through how to contact us, give you some timelines and dates of what's coming up in the immediate future. We're going to talk about school information, give you an idea of what the day will look like for your student. And we'll talk a little bit about some special supports that come along with Bloomington being a part of the Bloomington public school system. We have an opportunity if you're interested in becoming part of the family advisory board. I'll talk more about that a little later. We're going to cover grade level orientation meetings that are coming up next week. That will give you a chance to meet teachers, see who, one-on-one, see who your child's teachers will be, and then there'll be a family question and answer time at the end of our session. So my name is Rebecca Brower. I am, my official title is the program coordinator for Bloomington Online School Middle School. I am an acting administrator. So as you think about me in my role, think about me as the person to come to when you have questions, maybe beyond, what you could ask your students' teachers. And I am your contact for all of those things that you have questions for, needs for. You can see my email there. You'll have some other contact information coming up as well.
And I'm Andrew Rummel. I am a digital learning coordinator in the district. And I've been working on the project throughout this summer, really with the role of supporting the curriculum development, professional development for teachers. And that will be a continued role throughout the year.
We also want to introduce Elizabeth Hill. She is one of our Bloomington Online School Middle School teachers. We are so excited that she is going to be a part of our school. And she is here tonight to help us moderate the questions coming in and answer them as well.
Hi, everyone.
So some nuts and bolts of contact information. our physical address, this is the address of ESC, since we are an online school. That's the address that would go to the Educational Service Center. When you want to reach us by email, our email address is Bloomington BOS at isd271.org. And we have a attendance line that you will be calling in when your child is sick. And this is the number here as well. Timeline, dates coming up. August 20th, that's today, we're having our family welcome info session. August 24th, that's Monday, you will receive teacher classroom placement information. Now, a note on that, when you log in on Monday to see your class list, your child's class list, you may see some names not populated yet, and that is only a matter of the system catching up with populating those. So please continue to check back, check on Tuesday, check Tuesday night. They will show up. Just don't be alarmed if you see a schedule without a teacher's name in the course. August 26 and 27, next week, we will have grade level orientation meetings where you will specifically get more information for your 6th grader, your 7th grader, your 8th grader. Those are separate meetings. We'll have them similar to this, where you'll have a link to join a live meeting and get information from the grade level teachers. Next week starts Teacher Back to School Week. So teachers are all coming back to school next week and will be involved in all kinds of professional development, as well as getting to know each other and the curriculum and planning for the year. The week of August 31st through September 3rd, it's a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We plan to have Meet Your Teacher time, where you can meet one-on-one and talk to your teachers. We'll give you more information as that gets closer. And then September 8th is our first day of school.
All right, so we're happy to be sharing with you the schedule for the online school. And what you'll notice is that there's a schedule for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Wednesday will look a little bit different, although it is all online. The day begins with a launch at 9 o'clock. And we'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. At 9:30, from 9:30 to 11:30, courses 1 and 2. So you can picture that as periods 1 and 2. 2 of the core courses take place during that time. And during that time, there may be synchronous instruction taking place. There may be asynchronous instruction. It could be small group work that's happening. And really that is our work with teachers around being really intentional about how they're using different approaches within an online setting. At 11:30, we break for lunch, an active brain break. At 12:15, we have a drop-in time. So that's where teachers are available, so students can drop in online and connect with them around questions they're having. They can also schedule time during that drop-in time. And then courses 3 and 4, so the core courses 3 and 4 are later from 1 till 3. And then again, that could be synchronous time, a mix of synchronous time, asynchronous time. So time when we're live on Google Meet or doing work on asynchronous or independently. And then at 3 o'clock, we have exploratory time and then drop-in time again for core content teachers. And then you'll notice on Wednesdays, it's a little bit different. So at 9 o'clock, we begin independent work time and then teacher check-in time. So there's a period of time really focused on giving students feedback on the work that they're doing as such an important part of the learning process in online school, but also always in school. And then there's the lunch break, of course. And then in the afternoon, there is independent work time, small group time that's happening. And it could be base group collaborations where students are meeting with a consistent group to really work through assignments, check in with each other, report back to the teacher around particular agenda items provided by the teacher or projects perhaps, and then drop-in time at the end of the day again.
Andrew, just a quick question.
Yeah.
Will all of this information be emailed out to parents and staff as well? So
Yes.
that they have a copy.
Yeah, yep. So this information will be provided. It will be posted to our website. And then this video, of course, is being recorded and it will be available also.
Perfect. Thank you.
A little bit about the launch class. One, it starts the day, and that's a very important thing. That's that welcoming in the morning time, essentially, where it's a synchronous daily check-in through Google Meet, where teachers and students gather. There is community building relationships, of course, which are so important between teachers and students and students and students. Establishing online learning skills. So really, especially at the beginning of the year, building up those online skills so that they can use the tools and navigate the systems through which they'll be learning. And then building social emotional skills and strategies. And then a piece around additional art and physical education integration. So being an online school, those elements are very important, especially as you think about living a healthy lifestyle.
So we wanted to give you just a snapshot here of our amazing teachers that have all wanted to come be a part of online school. And you can see their names and then the subjects that we teach or that they teach right underneath. We have a range of teachers from all 3 middle schools, and they bring to us just all kinds of experience that they've had throughout their teaching career. We are so lucky to have this group, and we're really excited to work with them. So one of the aspects of our online school is a gifted and talented partnership with Bloomington Online School. The Gifted and Talented Department and Bloomington Online School are going to partner, work together to give the gifted and talented students enrolled an experience that will enhance what they are learning, what they're working on. The DA and Nobel students that enroll in Bloomington Online School will be grouped in classes, and that way that they are familiar with working together from years before, and they will be able to work together in small groups as well by being grouped in their classes. Many of the teachers in our program have gifted and talented experience. They've taught gifted and talented in their middle school experience in various ways, and those teachers will be supported by the Gifted and Talented Department. Advanced online math classes are available within Bloomington Online School so that students may stay on track for their high school gifted and talented programming. We also have an opportunity to work with all 3 middle schools to support our students. Our student support services that we offer are for EL students, English language learners, and Katrina is going to be our English language learner teacher. We also have special education support, so students with IEPs and 504s, and we will be working with the special ed department, and they will be contacting you. If you have a special ed student, rest assured that we will be contacting you through special ed to make sure that you're having the services that you require for your child. We also are going to partner with the 3 middle schools for counseling services, social work services, and academic support as well. So you can think of it as a partnership with the 3 middle schools, and Bloomington Online School will be accessing the 3 different schools as needed for support throughout the year.
Within the Bloomington Online School, all students will have a student device provided by the district. We have information on that around students. If you currently have a middle school student who does not have a Chromebook, and that for the most part, there are some small numbers of students from last year who don't have a Chromebook, but then otherwise we have students who are new to Bloomington Public Schools. We'll be announcing a date where you can schedule schedule a pickup time. If you're new to the district, that pickup will be at Valley View Middle School. And again, we'll be sending more information and contacting you about the pickup date for devices. One of the elements around technology in an online program is our learning management system. And so for the Bloomington Online School, we use Canvas. Canvas is currently used at many universities and K-12 systems throughout the country and actually world. Recently, the University of Minnesota adopted it. Maybe that was 2 or 3 years ago now, if I remember right. And a number of the universities around here, which I think is interesting. As a tool, it's a full learning management system. And that includes certain things. It includes some integrated tools for organization around calendars and to-do lists or due dates for students to use and teachers to use. Communication tools around scheduling times to meet with students. It has an inbox system within it for mailing between teachers and students. It has instructional tools in it, a wide set of instructional tools. So some examples, this is an example of the student calendar. So when a student looks at their calendar, they see the due dates for their assignments. And those are live links. So they just click on that and it brings them to the assignment that's due at that time. There's also a daily agenda. So this is a convenient way to look throughout the day. It will also include whether there are synchronous sessions to attend. It will have those all marked on there. It will have the due dates, obviously, for both work to be submitted and work that needs to be done where there isn't a submission, say reading a number of chapters within a book. It has a to-do list that pops up when a student signs into Canvas. And this is a live to-do list again. So a student would say, notice in number 1, take quiz 1. So they would click on that and it would bring them to quiz 1. And that is, again, just helping a student navigate online learning spaces in a very clear way and convenient way, efficient way. So we're excited to be using Canvas throughout this year and continuing to kind of explore all the tools that it has to offer us instructionally.
Can I circle back to a couple quick questions? There's just a couple questions specifically with the Chromebooks and the technology. It was 2 slides ago, I think. But as far as either working slowly or parts, keyboards, and different things not working, are students able to actually get a new device, or can we walk through just really quick? There's a couple questions about that.
Yeah, so we'll send out information along with the pickup date for a new device for students who need a device around what do we do with devices that aren't that aren't fully working. And so an example would be a keyboard that isn't working fully. So we have a plan for exchanging devices, and that's true throughout the whole district, including the online program. And so we'll communicate that information. The key is to check in with your student. If you've had a Chromebook sitting at your house that hasn't had a lot of action over summer, maybe it's just been sitting and students maybe were playing outside instead. I don't know, it's summertime. Then I would check in and see how it's working, try to log into it, see that see if there's any concerns, because we would want to address those early so that the beginning of the year is successful for students.
Perfect. And then a question just came in too, wondering if Canvas is new to Bloomington Public Schools.
Yeah, so Canvas was new to the secondary schools last year. In our secondary program for Bloomington Public Schools, we offer 2 learning management systems, 2 main systems, Google Classroom and Canvas. Secondary teachers, so middle school and high school teachers, choose which one to use. And in the Bloomington Online School, and actually in the high school online program also, teachers use Canvas. It's part of the program. And that has been true with our high school online program since its adoption.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, we'll move to a little information about parenting and online students. So this is a big question. Obviously, everybody last year experienced distance learning, and everybody had a different experience with that, of course. And as we enter into launching this online school, we want to think about that role as parents and learn from research and what research says about parenting online students. Obviously, parenting middle school students in an online experience is different from parenting, say, younger elementary students in an online school. Here are some kind of 4 key points or roles that teachers or that parents play with online students. One is that it's essential that parents continue to communicate with the teacher and school. So that's, in this case, Rebecca at the school level, and then the teachers. It is essential that students develop a daily routine. Obviously, we're structuring that support for them. We are launching the day together and talking about the schedule throughout the day. But it is important that they're thoughtful around that daily routine and finding success throughout the day. You can help your child stay organized, both in their physical and digital learning or environment. That is also, again, having a kind of a very dedicated space where they can do their work and they're really kind of set up for success. And then checking in with your students about their school work is always a good thing, right? Getting students to talk about what they're learning, about why they might be learning that, about how it connects to other things they're learning, or it connects to their world and their lives. We will be talking more about that parenting role kind of together as a school as we go throughout this year, especially as we launch in the fall.
So one way that you as families, as parents, could get involved this year is joining or considering joining our family advisory. We very much value your involvement and your feedback. So a few things about the Bloomington Online School Family Advisory. It'll help you stay in the know. You can provide important input and feedback as we go, as we embark on this journey this year. It'll give you connections with other Bloomington Online School families. You will have the opportunity to develop community events and programs, things that would foster community and cohesiveness in our group. And then importantly, we would ask for your help problem solving and brainstorming opportunities for students and families as things arise throughout the year. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, I will be sending an email tomorrow with a form where you can indicate your interest. I mentioned that next week we will have grade level orientation meetings. What to expect from these meetings, you will meet the grade level teacher team. So you'll be able to see all the teachers by that point you should have, you'll know your schedule and you'll be able to identify which teachers your child will have. You'll have an opportunity then to connect with other grade level families, receive supply lists, which I know everybody's anxious to get ready. We are working on them hard, pulling together as a team to make it simple for families to get what they need, but then also wrapping our heads around, okay, so we're online, what materials do we really need for students to have at home? So look for that supply list to come at the grade level orientation meetings next week. The teachers will walk you through a day in the life of your child online. Much like we went through the schedule, we'll look through it again. What will it look like for a child and how will their day go? Any updated information, dates that we don't have at this point, you'll receive them then, and then you'll have another chance to ask questions.
There is a question. Are teachers assigned to specific grade levels or teaching multiple grades?
So both. I mean, so some teachers are teaching 4 sections. That means that some teachers will be teaching, 8th grade. So I'm gonna use Elizabeth because she's here. 8th grade math and 1 section of 7th grade math. And that was just a matter of our enrollment and how many sections we needed, and we staffed based on our enrollment. So teachers will be teaching cross grade level, and there are teachers who are teaching multiple content as well. Whatever falls under their expertise and their licensure is where they are placed. Andrew, anything else on that?
just sharing the orientation meeting dates, and then I think we can circle back to some of the questions that we're getting.
Sure.
Let me see. So as we finish up here, so I'm going to leave it on these dates just in case anybody wants to write those down. I saw a number of questions that I think we'd want to address. One, there was a question around Principal Wilrett from Valley View Middle School and what her role was and the shift. Maybe explain the kind of shift there. Rebecca, do you want to speak about that?
I will, sure. So originally when Bloomington Online School was being formed, planned, the idea was that Bloomington Online School Middle School would be joined in with one of the middle schools, and it was Valley View that was the school chosen. So Principal Wilrett would have been the principal. What happened is our enrollment just got a lot bigger than anticipated, and at that point, it wasn't feasible for one principal to do her job with her school and also take on Bloomington Online School, which is when I was called in. I do my background, just so you know, I taught middle school. I've taught middle school science from 10 years, and then I was a middle school dean. So I've had 7 years of administrative experience at the middle school level. And then most recently, I was a teacher coach at the middle school and high school level. So that, because of the experience I've had at the level with administration, I think that was a fit for me to come in and be the acting administrator for online school.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see, Elizabeth, are there other questions that you see in there?
Yes, there's a few different ones. I guess the first one I'm going to ask, the most recent, as far as accelerating in math, there's a parent who has a 7th grade student who is supposed to be taking 8th grade math, and just wondering how that works. So I think just the general math in particular, if we want to talk about that.
Yeah, of course. So students who are in advanced math classes continue on their same pace that they would in the traditional program. And so that means in this case, a 7th grader who has worked their way to 8th grade math will take an 8th grade math course. Perfect. And that is also true for students who are in a math class that's at the high school level.
Several questions about the daily schedule and official end time. Is there an official end time, or kind of how does that work?
Yeah, so the day ends with exploratories from 3 to 4. So that is if there are live sessions during that time. So if the teacher has scheduled synchronous work to happen between that time, 3 to 4, then the expectation, of course, is that students would engage in that work. Obviously, we know that things come up, and especially with we're in a pandemic, so lots of things are complicated. And we would want to work to support students so that they're successful, of course. The other element that's at the end of the day is office hours or drop-in time for teachers. So essentially, that is flexible time where a student can reach out to a teacher and knows that they will be available. So again, that kind of, as you picture the end of the day, that might, there might be flexibility there that you need as a family. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Question kind of going with math, as far as honors courses, I think that would pertain to I would assume language arts in particular. Are there honors courses in other content areas as well, or how is that?
Yeah, so for the Bloomington Online School, we don't have honors courses separate from our grade level courses. And part of that is the original design around supporting teachers, of course, as they differentiate within the classroom and offer enrichment within the classroom. And then also the original design around a 1-section school, and then that expansion now to a 3-section school.
Perfect, thank you. Will the parent orientations be recorded and provided for anyone that has a scheduling conflict?
Yes, I think that's a reasonable request, just like this, where those orientation meetings, again, will be large. So if we're having all 6th grade families invited to an orientation, that's around 90 families. We know, of course, not all can attend. And then that follows up the following or the next week with opportunities to be in a live Google Meet session with teachers, so that it isn't so formal like this where you have to chat in question, but you can actually interact in conversation.
Perfect. Kind of going back to recording, will students need to have their cameras on throughout the day?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's an element around that, around where you want to be providing people choice around when they show up on camera, obviously. And we're very aware of that. There are times when a teacher might request that a student turn on the camera and work with them. That isn't necessarily the big group time, right? Like if they're in a one-on-one conversation and they want to, they're establishing a relationship, they're focusing in together, there might be a time there. But if there's a reason why a student would not want their camera on, obviously teachers are going to be respectful and aware of that. So.
All right, we have several questions. A couple questions about library books specifically. Will students have access to physical library books, or how will that work?
Yeah, so that's a question that we're problem solving around, of course. We are talking about how do we get materials to students that are in the online school and pick up dates for materials. The library question itself, we will think through around how can we do that in a safe way, obviously, for students and families. And I would say that's also a question that we're working through in our regular program also, around how do we have access to books, because it's so important for students to have books. How do we have access, but also do that in a safe way?
Perfect. I'm going to put a couple of questions together. There's a question about how many sections or classes does each grade level have, and roughly how many kids per class? As well as going back to like scheduling, are kids in a cohort, or will their schedules, do they each have their individual schedules? So is it a cohort that they'll follow throughout the day?
Rebecca, I don't know if you want to speak to that one.
Sure. So as far as a cohort, we did talk a little bit about students from Nobel or from Dimensions Academy being grouped so that they can work together. We aren't grouping students to move together per se. It's just our example of that, I guess, would be gifted and talented. I can't think of another group that we would do that way. Otherwise, it's just a dissemination of the 4 core classes and the grade level that the student's in.
Great. There's a question there I noticed about, just to be clear, Distance Learning 2.0 and BOS are 2 different programs, and that is correct. Again, the Bloomington Online School has been designed to offer families the opportunity to commit for a year, and Distance Learning 2.0, we enter into that, as you probably heard this week, we enter into that in the fall, and then that question gets revisited as throughout the school year. So it is a separate program. And again, that commitment is really the difference, where we have a talented group of teachers we're excited about, and we're excited to provide a program really that is going to be consistently online all year long.
Perfect. There's a couple questions wondering how can parents access their students' Canvas portal, or what will their source be or resource be as far as checking assignments and making sure their students completing and on the right track?
Yeah, so our Canvas courses, the grade book syncs to Infinite Campus. So that means every 24 hours there's an update as scores move across by assignment into Infinite Campus. And then our calendars sync with the Hub, and there have been some nice improvements with the Hub over summer, where the to-do list within the Hub is we believe it will be a tool that students will see and want to use because of the clarity around it. And so that's true about all the Bloomington Public School programs. So at the secondary level, teachers will have a Canvas or a Google Classroom calendar or a Google Calendar that syncs into the Hub to provide information around their courses. one thing we, of course, would always want you to do is feel comfortable having your students sit with them, have them talk through the grades with you. That conversation is important to do that kind of as partners in their learning. And as a parent of middle schoolers, I know how that conversation can go, and there is an element of having it be part of their online school experience. Like sharing with you is important, and access for you, of course, is also important.
Perfect. Several questions coming in, just clarifying with gifted and talented and Nobel and honors, how that all works together. So will gifted and talented and the Nobel program have their own specific cohort, or will they be grouped into a regular class setting where the teacher is kind of accommodating or differentiating for that particular class period? Or are they their own specific cohort?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I understand the confusion there, especially as we have moved through the end of July and into August here. A big part of that question is around enrollment, of course. And so the partnership, the collaboration we have with Gifted and Talented is that we're working to place students who are in Gifted and Talented programs together into classes as groups. And that will, whether that is the size of that group will depend on enrollment in the end.
Perfect. There's a couple questions too, as far as special ed. Is there a designated special ed teacher for the Bloomington Online School, or contact specifically for special ed?
That is a great question. And yes, there will be. We don't have that information for you, unfortunately, right at this moment. But please be assured that we are working closely with the district, with Carmen Meyer and Jennifer McIntyre to work through staffing at this point. And I'm sure, as you can imagine, with the change in the model just on Monday, there has been a lot of work around how to staff, how to support all of our kids. So yes, there will be teachers, special ed teachers specifically working with our Bloomington Online School middle schoolers. At this point, we don't have a name to share with you, or multiple names, but that is coming, and we're working hard to solve that.
Perfect. There was a couple questions. Do we know roughly class sizes, so per class, the number of students?
Yeah, so the class sizes in the Bloomington Online School pairs or is in parity with our traditional program. Class size for middle school is right around 32 as kind of an average. So we'll have some flux around that just based on scheduling, but that is the general kind of class section size.
Perfect. Circling back to the special ed, so if a student were to have pull-out accommodations, would they then work with that specific special ed teacher, which is still being determined?
Yeah, so I would just say with special education programming that it is hard to wait for information, but that information will be coming soon. And I wouldn't want to commit to the model that special education would say would work best for students in an online setting. We're looking at students' enrollment and then student need, and then thinking through what are the best ways to offer service within an online format.
Great. There's a couple questions too, math specifically. So if we had a 6th or 7th grader taking 8th grade math, for instance, they would be taking the course with other 8th graders, is the question?
Yes, so, yep, that's correct. So that would depend on the numbers of students who need that 8th grade math class. Yes, there potentially would be 6th, 7th, and 8th graders all in one math class. Teachers, of course, would work to meet the younger middle schoolers' needs while also, of course, meeting the 8th graders, 7th and 8th graders' needs.
Perfect. And then, so therefore, if they wanted to attend multiple orientations, that would be up to them.
Yeah, and I'd say even more than the orientation, that next meeting where you can be in a smaller group and interact with the teacher, that's probably the place where really you're going to find that connection and be able to ask questions about the actual class and really get that back and forth of a conversation.
And those, just as a reminder, those meetings that are going to be live, interactive live with teachers, once the students have their schedules, will be the August 31st through September 2nd, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Some questions about some of the different specialties. So English language classes, is that Katrina? So will there be, an English EL class, as well as exploratories, choir specifically?
Yeah, so choir will not be offered as part of Bloomington Online School. So music exploration is kind of our core elective, and then we're working with our music teacher around instrumental music. So a plan around instrumental music.
Perfect. And then EL classes, so students that received EL specific language classes, will there be a separate pullout or section of that?
So again, that would depend on the student's need around what type of service would, within EL, there are students at different levels of language learning, and the program would be work to match their language levels. We have an EL teacher working with our program, and she would be designing the kind of appropriate level of instruction for them or type of instruction for them.
Synchronous and asynchronous time. Do we know a rough breakdown of how much of each of those there will be?
So the time on synchronous and asynchronous isn't a set time, other than, of course, that launch period of the day. And really, we've been working with our partners at the University of Minnesota to kind of create guidelines and think about when instructionally is the best use of synchronous synchronous approach, and when is the best time for moving into other types of teaching or experiences through asynchronous. So it isn't that every day there would be this set amount. It would be every day there will be synchronous interactions with teachers and with other students, but it isn't blocked out by the half hour or 40-minute kind of periods.
Perfect. Are students expected to have their microphones on?
Yep. So if students are in a synchronous situation, we would teach them the norms of interaction in a Google Meet. And some of that is turning the microphone on and off. So turning it off at moments when they should be listening and paying attention to the teacher, of course, and then turning it back on when they're going to, engage the group from their side. So.
What are the specific exploratory classes other than music exploration?
So we are going to base our exploratories on quarters. So we have art, Phy Ed and health, and then we've got music exploration. Those are the three that will be rotated throughout the quarters. And Andrew, do you want to talk about kind of the thinking behind having 3 instead of 4?
Yeah. So part of the kind of the guidance we've gotten from our partners at the University of Minnesota is that having more and more courses, or even a full load of courses within an online school, is not the best model for students in order to find success with that. And so what we're looking at doing is how can we create moments or a schedule, an approach where students can go deeper into core content courses while also getting those exploratories, but not spreading those exploratories out over the full year. So that is, again, our guidance from research around online learning and the ways that students can be most successful with it, and the ways that we can design it for students. So That also kind of signals why we want to be integrating art and phy ed, especially our healthy lifestyles within that kind of launch period of the day, because we know that we know that healthy lifestyles are based on more in their life than being in front of a computer, obviously, and movement and exercise and understanding health and is all part of that.
Great. Question as far as ending the day at 4, and how does that impact students who play sports? I think probably mostly with the high school in particular.
Yeah, so again, this is a middle school schedule. So if they play up into a high school sport, it will kind of depend on that sport. And that's something that happens with middle schoolers who play up into high school sports, that dealing with the time adjustments and aligning time. Again, our schedule has built in flexibility around it. And that's intentional with online learning and how online learning kind of works best. There are, again, many synchronous moments throughout the day, throughout the week, but it isn't, there is still flexibility with it. And especially when you think about that use of drop-in time, where students can be reaching out or teachers can be scheduling time with students or small groups of students in order to connect with them that way or get their answers or clarify things for them that way.
Great. Couple questions. I think there's, just going back to the exploratory classes, questions about facts and language classes, just to clarify those district-wide, I believe, as well as middle school sports. Those were a part of the decision earlier this spring, I think, that they no longer. Okay.
Yeah, so from the budget cuts or from downsizing the budget in that process last year, there were cuts to sports and there were cuts to the language program.
Perfect. Sorry, just reading through a couple. There's some concerns, I think, as far as specifically with gifted and talented, DA and Nobel needing to, let's see, if the Bloomington Online School is not the same as Distance Learning 2.0, will students who are enrolled in Distance Learning 2.0 who are DA students be instructed at a separate time? I think there's, so let's see. So DA students who are in Bloomington Online Schools, just to clarify, will be integrated and grouped together. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, so our partnership, again, the collaboration with Gifted and Talented, looks at students who are served through their program. So that's the Nobel program and the DA program. And based on enrollment, we will be grouping them together. Again, a number of our teachers have experience with those programs. And then there will be some pairing with with teachers who have that experience of really meeting the needs of students who are in those programs. So I know there are still questions around that, and I, of course, encourage you to reach out to the Gifted and Talented program for more information if you have specific questions around the collaboration. So that, I think, kind of just understanding that it is based on enrollment. Our section sizes are determined by enrollment, and we'll be grouping students based on that. Perfect.
There's some concerns as far as just not having more detailed information for the Bloomington Online School and families who have students in the special education program. Do we have any more clear idea? I know we don't have all the details yet, but any more of a timeline to kind of help with clarifying some of the questions for that?
So we do not have information specific to how each student based on their IEP will receive service. Really, that is a collaboration with the special education department. And so I would encourage families to reach out either directly to us, so emailing myself or Rebecca and allowing us to make that connection with special education. More information will be coming around kind of the general models, but again, it's heavily impacted by the needs of the student. And so it isn't as, it isn't as easy as saying this is the one model that will exist for all students. It is really the work around thinking through a student's IEP and then what services would help kind of meet the goals of that IEP.
Great. Question, will there be homework?
So that's a great question. And so there absolutely could be homework. There'll be lots of work. So when you're in an online program, homework has a different feel to it because it isn't that you are physically in school and now I'm at home doing work. And so it is more that there will be assignments to complete, and some of those will be individual assignments that students will work through. Maybe it's a question around the amount of time beyond the school day. Potentially there's work that goes beyond that end of day kind of time limit. But that would really depend on the assignments that are being done, on the due dates, on each student's approach to learning, and kind of what they need as students around being organized, being successful with it. There are great differences in our students around by assignment, by discipline, around how they learn, and kind of the, based on their background knowledge and based on their previous experiences around how long an assignment might take. So that's all an element of a teacher working with a group of students in any class.
Great. So it looks like some questions around just needing to finalize decisions on Bloomington Online School today, but not getting more information about distance learning 2.0 until next week. So I think there's some questions as far as gifted and talented and SPED specifically having to make that decision today. Is there any clarification as far as just to help kind of around some of those concerns, the timeline of making that decision today versus not having information on that distance learning until next week?
Yeah, so that is true. The timeline is difficult, and we do understand that. Yet at the same time, enrollment impacts our staffing. It impacts our ability to really launch a program where kids will be successful with it, teachers will be successful with it, families will feel the success of that. And so we do have a timeline around the end of, I believe it's the end of the day tomorrow, around enrollment for the online school. More information will be coming out around the distance learning program. I see that Aaron is in the chat there, so hopefully answering questions about gifted and talented and our collaboration with them. And thanks, Aaron, for being here. We appreciate that.
Let's see, questions, just wondering, is there any possibility of that deadline being pushed back until there's more information for the distance learning? Kind of follow up with that too is how long is the wait list for Bloomington Online Schools?
Yeah, so the wait list is different by grade level, and it will, there is movement. We expect movement throughout, earlier this week with the announcement of distance learning, movement or a request to move off the program, and then families moving onto the program. Currently, we're at 3 sections across each grade level with our student numbers. And so waitlist students are moving in as families are making a choice to best meet their kind of family's vision for the year.
Great. There's a couple questions about Wednesdays specifically, and just kind of the difference in that schedule and why not necessarily having that synchronous or core class instruction on Wednesdays.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are a few elements to teaching online and learning online that are different than face-to-face. And so 2 of those are kind of within that Wednesday time. One, teaching online is a very front heavy process where you're designing the assignments, of course, but also the pathway through those assignments, the moments for feedback, all of that. And so part of Wednesdays is about teachers designing ahead. And again, acknowledging that it is just such an important part of the difference between online teaching and in-person teaching around just the kind of weight of that kind of front load work. And then there is a really important element around student feedback in the online program. And so by blocking time where teachers can meet with students, can provide feedback, where they can, be providing feedback on assignments, but also be kind of pulling in small groups if they need to, like just signaling that time is intentional and will be used that way. I see some questions there around gym. So Phi Ed is an online class that we've offered in Bloomington Public Schools at the high school level from the beginning of our online program. So more than 4 years now, I suppose, of on those Phi Ed classes being online. They're very popular. Many students take Phi Ed online. It does change things, of course. So it is different as a way of teaching that content, yet it is something we have experience with as a district. I see a question around scope and sequence. So the Bloomington online school program is built on some foundational principles that our high school program has also been built upon. And one is that courses are designed by Bloomington teachers using Bloomington approaches from our curriculum instruction department, our teaching and learning department. And so that means the goal of the online courses, they meet the same rigorous standards of our face-to-face in-person program. And so scope and sequence is really defined by the standards in each academic area. And then the work that teachers have done over the years around taking those standards and breaking them into essentially a sequence for their content area.
I'm going to jump in. There's a question I saw a few minutes ago asking about efforts to help get kids into smaller groups and developing online friends and work buddies. Absolutely, that's going to be a very important part of your students' experience on Bloomington Online School. We know middle schoolers are very social, and it's very important for them to develop friendships online. And so we will be forming those groups. I think we may have referred to them as base groups, but groups where students will be working together on assignments, collaborations on projects, and just socially, time for them socially to get to know each other as well.
Yeah, and just a moment, a few words on base groups. So base groups are, they have a research base behind them and what you do as a teacher as you design for them. And it isn't maybe the experience that many of us have had in school where you're kind of just partnered up with people for just a moment and you're working through an assignment and then you're no longer together. Base groups are intended to be long-term, of bringing kids together, where they can be thinking about content together. They can be following up on assignments with teachers together. They can be supporting each other, of course, as human beings, especially at a time when we're in a pandemic and that kind of social connection is so important.
Couple of quick questions. There was a few questions. Middle school sports, are there any middle school sports still being offered, or are all sports now through the high school?
You know, I saw that question about cross country in there, and I think we would have to look into information around that. I don't know if you know, Elizabeth.
I'm not certain, so I don't want to say, but I believe it's all through the high school at this point.
Okay. Yeah.
But I can kind of double check through that.
Yeah. And
also sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we can send out more information around activities. Remember that as part of the Bloomington Online School, the activities that are taking place in your kind of your school where you're coming from or where you would have gone if you're entering 6th grade, those activities are available to you as a student and as a family. Obviously, because of COVID, the activities are going to be structured in very different ways as we respond to kind of design extracurriculars in a way that is safe for kids and families.
Great. Will students be able or have any input on who they're grouped with or people that they'd like to be with?
Yeah, so that's a common question. And I saw a question earlier asking about learning pods. And we know that nationally there's a trend around families forming learning pods. And so I think we will need to provide more information around that as we think about kind of the best way to design those base groups. Learning pods If students are forming learning pods, that will be great for us to know and be aware of. But at the same time, we know that many students, will be in the online program and building connections with kids who are like them and who are different from them is an extremely important part of being a student in middle school. And we would want to, of course, provide the opportunity for kind of learning different perspectives and different backgrounds and really that full middle school experience.
Great. There was, a question around testing, and I'm not sure if it's statewide testing or summative testing, but do we know anything just kind of around testing in general?
Yeah, so the online program will follow the guidelines, of course, from the district as they problem solve around assessment and around state testing. Obviously that's guided by the Minnesota Department of Education. On the in-class level, assessment in an online course oftentimes takes a shift where you move kind of fact-based learning into more practice-based, where it is important that students learn a lot of information and gain a lot of language around that information, a lot, language or words, vocabulary or concepts. And so it's super important that you gain that kind of factual level information. And then you look at assessment around applications. So some creative things that we've seen teachers do in the online program around having students record themselves as they explain solving a problem. All of a sudden, it becomes very difficult to maybe use outside resources in that explanation in the moment. Or it could be that students are doing an application where they're using that knowledge in some way to show that they've learned it. So, and that's really kind of the deeper levels of learning that we'd want students to get to.
As far as MCAs or MAP testing, do we have any information on that as far as what students will take or when?
Yep. So, and that's a discussion with distance learning also. So the online school will follow district policies around the kind of those bigger district-wide assessment or state assessments. Obviously, state assessments are guided by requirements from the Department of Education. Again, there are online schools that take state tests as part of their process. And so we would, of course, follow the guidelines from the Department of Education.
Great. There was a question earlier, sorry, I'm coming back to it, about reading class, and as far as if there's a specific reading class or kind of where that'll fit in.
Sure. So our 4 core classes for each student are science, social studies, math, and then English language arts. So instead of having a separate reading class, think of the reading combined with language arts. This was a decision also made by the board last year to cut 6th grade reading and 6th grade reading and 7th grade reading from the curriculum. So that follows the Greater Bloomington School curriculum and as far as what's required for each grade.
Great. There was a question earlier on to, as far as will the Bloomington Online School, does it follow the Bloomington calendar and vacation days and,
yes.
Or is there its own calendar?
No, it is the same calendar as the Bloomington Public Schools.
Great. There was also, sorry, kind of going back to a couple, as far as special ed in particular, there was some concern just as far as will the Bloomington Online School, as far as being a good fit for special ed students, just as far as will we be able to accommodate all of the needs and accommodations with that? Yeah,
and that's a great question. And again, I would turn towards the special education department around that. They know your student as a department, of course. They know your student, or they can look into, if they don't, know your student's IEP and can really talk through that decision. So I would encourage you to reach out to the special education department around that.
And do we know who would be the best contact, since we don't have a Bloomington Online special ed contact specifically? Is there a particular person that special ed could answer some of the questions for special ed?
Yeah, I think probably the best process would be to email myself or Rebecca and then we can connect you with the appropriate person in special education.
Perfect. I'm assuming it looks like there was a question, even though it's the middle school session. Let's see, do we know, oh, sorry, coming back. Students will be placed at grade, I mean, is high school honors the same as middle school honors courses, whereas middle school honors math students will be placed in the correct level?
Yeah, I understand that. There's the question around a high school student, that sounds like to me. So that information around student courses for high school is in process, obviously, with the changing, around distance learning. So we don't have more information around that. Again, courses are heavily impacted by enrollment. And so that information will be coming soon. I think I believe the high schools are in the same timeline as far as releasing schedules. I don't know, Rebecca, if you know that from meetings, but
I think they're all going to be released at the same time.
Great.
Let's see, music exploration. Can we explain any more or I think what that course is, if it's just different than the hands-on?
Sorry about that. I was just checking something there. So the music exploration, I would say really the most information on music exploration will come from our music teacher, who will be with us as we have our next sessions, where he can talk about the work he would do in that course. I wouldn't want to speak for him around the content of his course. I think I can speak safely here for us as a team that we're very excited to have the teachers together in sessions, really talking about the work that they love to do as teachers.
Can you put the slide while I ask the last couple of questions with the emails back up for your contact information? Thank you. Sure. And then while you're doing that, will there be any clubs going on, such as book clubs or any of the additional clubs that were offered?
Yeah, so we've had conversations around clubs, around enrichment opportunities, around community building opportunities. As a smaller program, so a 3-section program with a really great teaching team, my belief is that we'll enter into this thinking through those activities. Of course, our parent advisory can be part of that planning, and really thinking about what can we offer students beyond the kind of class-to-class academic experience. So we look forward to that, and we don't have more details around that yet, but that is a part of the middle school experience we would want to address as we go throughout the year.
Great. And just to add as well, each student is still identified in Bloomington Online Schools. Each is still identified with a home school, with a home Oak Grove, Valley View, Olson Middle. And the reason for that, there's a couple of reasons for that. One, I mentioned earlier, in order to pair you with services that you might need, should we, contact social work or counseling or whatever you might need to support students in Bloomington Online School, but also you then are eligible to participate in any kind of clubs and activities that they, as a middle school, may be running throughout distance learning. Or throughout the year, I should expand.
Yep, throughout the whole year. So
the whole year.
Yep.
Also a question, if we could just put the daily schedule back up as well, and then maybe with that, just again, tell us where or when parents will have access to all this information if they want to go back through the presentation.
Yeah,
or so ways to access that.
Yep. So this session will be posted, and we'll post our presentation slides with it. And that will go on the website, the BOS website. It's off of for middle school, it's connected to the district website. So if you search Bloomington Online School, it will bring you to that website. The session isn't there yet, so we'll be putting that up tomorrow morning.
Okay. There's a question, is there a guarantee that there will be band in Bloomington Online School?
So there isn't a guarantee around band. I know we are working with our music teacher. And we will have more information around that soon. And I'm sorry that I can't say for sure whether there's that opportunity or not. band. The district is planning around band altogether because of wanting to make sure that it's done in a safe way for students and families. And so we will have more information, and the district will have more information around that.
Can parents of Bloomington Online students still be involved with their homeschool's PTA?
I would say that's the first time we've gotten that question. And so we would reach out to our colleagues in those middle schools. My hunch is that they would want to lean towards keeping you involved, especially if the choice at the end of the year is to return to that school. So that makes sense.
Okay. Just to clarify, and I know we'll have more information with it too, but will parents log into Canvas to help kids with deadlines, or what would their go-to be as far as helping kids stay up to date?
Yeah. So the improvements in the hub made over summer, I think that will be the best place probably to log in and look at your students' kind of to-do lists and what work is completed. We'll be working with students around developing good student habits as an online student. Part of that is that active use of kind of to-do lists and really tracking your work. Obviously with middle school, that's a skill to develop for many students, but it is an element. Well, it's an element in all middle schools of preparing students to be successful students and developing study habits and student habits around how to be aware of what's coming their way around assignments, why they're studying what they're studying, and then, of course, what due dates are coming towards them. Obviously, that's an important role for parents, too, is to work with students around really being thoughtful and develop the strategies they need to do based on their learning needs.
There's a question, and I just wanted to double check. It sounds like going back to the band and that piece of it, will band be offered in distance learning 2.0?
Yep. So my assumption is that the district is working on a plan to offer band and orchestra as part of distance learning 2.0. I don't know what those plans are as of right now. I just as an educator, I know that those settings are very different than a classroom setting, oftentimes by the size of the class or by the type of work that's happening there. And of course, the district is going to develop a plan that will provide for safety first.
Perfect. Could you put the daily schedule back up as well? A couple of people just wanted to look at that.
Yeah.
And then there was a response, and I don't know for certain, but that anyone in the community can be involved in a school PTA. So just as kind of some initial feedback as we look into that as well.
Yeah.
For further information.
Absolutely.
I think that goes through most of the questions I saw. So I don't know if I missed a question, if someone wants to re-put it in.
So as questions, maybe final questions are coming in, I just want to say thank you to everyone for showing up this evening. We do appreciate it. We're excited to share about the program. We're excited to really start to meet students and families, and our teachers are excited, of course, to start working with your students. And we are available to answer questions. Probably the best way to get us direct questions about your situation or your student is to email us those questions. Rebecca, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. We understand how difficult this decision is for parents, and we want to recognize that we know things are moving quickly and all of us are feeling it. We are really doing everything we can with your family and your child's best interest at heart. Our teachers and our administrators are working really hard to figure out all the different complex problems that are coming towards us. But as far as Bloomington Online School goes, we are so excited. We have a great group of teachers. We've got pedagogy and content based in research. And I feel very confident about how this school year will go. It'll be a learning experience for everyone, and everyone is on board to work together. So I'm very excited to be here, and I know our teachers and Andrew are as well. So thank you for coming and for asking your questions. And I think I think that brings us to an end.
All right.
One
well, thank
last
you.
question came through if you want it. That's what I just want to clarify those exploratory classes. Is music exploration the only Bloomington online school exploratory class being offered?
No, so we have art. So at each grade level, there's an art course. At each grade level, there's Phi-Ed health. And then at each grade level, there's music explorations, or as we work with our music teacher around what potential instrumental options we have throughout the year.
And then just along that is music exploration required if a student plays instruments or takes lessons outside of school? Do we know if there's any sort of kind of variance for that class in particular?
Yeah, we would have to follow the guidelines of and board policy around that. So if you're wondering that and you want to communicate that, I would say email us that question and we can follow up with the kind of policies from the school board around or the practices that the district has around that type of situation.
And then a question as far as Bloomington Online Schools and the future of the program. Is it in the plans that this program will continue through the years, or is this kind of taking place to help this year and facilitate the needs around this year specifically?
Yeah. So we've been planning in both ways, of course. So we've been planning with having a really solid response for families that need an all online version of education this year. We think that this will meet that need and that families will be well served through it. We've also planned with the long term in mind. So that means as we go through this year and we look at future years, we would be offering an online school. And obviously that's driven by student enrollment, it's community interest or student interest. And so really though, that would be our goal, is that the online program or online school becomes part of Bloomington Public Schools for the long term.
Great. I think that wraps it up. Just coming from the teachers, I just want to say how excited I am, and I know all my teaching and colleagues are, as we've started working on this, and we're just excited to meet your kiddos and get the year started and kind of work through this new exciting experience together. So really excited for the upcoming weeks and to get to talk to you more and answer any questions you have.
All right. Well, all right. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.